Which was, no,
That was a fire station.
no, I didn't get a chance to, but I did hear about some of it, so
We're on.
We're on, something about a rich company, meeting, that's what it is. All right. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm gonna call to order the Select Board meeting here on November 28th, the Durham Select Board. We have a quorum. Rich George is excused tonight. And why don't we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, get my microphone close. We have any amendments to the agenda this evening? Board members, Jerry? Nope, okay. Public comments, anybody here for public comment, for other issues other than what's on the agenda? Okay, move forward. Why don't we move to the Fire Chief Road Commissioner? I'll let you gentlemen flip a coin on who would like to go first.
Count always goes first.
I know.
That's what he gets for chatting on the hall.
So, giving you my report, if you guys are good.
Yep.
We've been working on winter operation preparedness, I guess I don't think I wrote that first sentence very well. All plows and wings have been put on the trucks, we've made trial runs, just out making sure that everybody's still remembered what it was like to have 16 feet of steel in front of your truck. That's all went well. We've had the trucks calibrated by Viking Surveys. We've been out, well, this was 2 winter events, now it's been 3 with freezing rain and snow. We attended a roadway fundamentals class in Saco for the Maine Local Roads Division of the MDOT, just going over various aspects of road construction and maintenance. We're well-staffed at the Public Works with on-call drivers for the winter months. I think most towns wish they could say that, but every year we've been doing very well. We've been busy with fall cleanup, town properties, cemeteries, and town office. We've done this a few times. We do it a week later, more leaves fall, and do it again, more leaves. Working with MMA's Loss Mitigation Department on property deficiencies and repair issues from their inspection this past summer. Continued work on the 2024 budget, working with Jerry and the accounting firm. Met with the CIP committee over the 24 capital requests so far. I guess we have another meeting coming up. That's what I've got.
Okay, any questions for Calvin? Heather?
I remember, they're easy. I noticed that at the Runaround Pond, Route 9 intersection, that one of the stop signs is down and there's kind of a makeshift. Is that the town or is that the state, and where's the status of that?
That's DOT. I've called them a couple of times. I gotta call them again tomorrow. I'm not sure. I went out on a weekend and put up that, on a Sunday, and put up that temporary sign, but they should have been there by now to fix that. I will check with them again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm also wondering, and you don't have to give us an update about this now, but maybe the next time that we talk, if there's been any concern about the foul that are at that intersection and people being able to get off the road safely right there. I have some concerns about safety around that, and I'm just wondering if there's been any concerns expressed to town staff about it.
I've heard comments that they're there, that's it. I haven't heard any complaints, but
Okay.
there is, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thanks,
All
Calvin.
right, thank you, Calvin. Have a good evening. Be safe out there.
All right, will do.
Chief? Good evening.
Hi, how are we
How
doing?
are you?
Okay, thank you.
Good, good.
If I may start with the foul.
Yeah.
Recently, there was multiple cars there, one had their hazards, so late at night I stopped. I thought it might be a car accident, actually. Normally, there's one, but I did get to talk to some participating members. I think they're trying to figure out a driveway to get off of the road. They are sharing that property with the owner. The fire department doesn't have a concern, it would be Calvin, but they are trying to figure out how to completely get off the road, because they understand that intersection's busy, and sometimes it's blind, if you will, so. I think a work in progress, best I got,
Okay,
just by stopping.
thank you.
You'll see on my agenda, the first thing was a possible commendation presentation. They haven't come in yet, I'll just have to wait. I'm gonna drag three members in front of you and give them commendations for their participation, and they responded to the Lewiston shooting. They were there for 3 hours, unbelievable, high risk and stress, and they deserve it. So I'll tell the story standing next to them when we bring them to you, but unbelievable.
Oh, boy, you're gonna make me cry on camera.
I hope not, if I can hold it in, but unbelievable. Those guys deserve recognition. Speaking of recognition, Ken Scribner officially retired from Durham Fire with decades of service. He held almost every rank, including deputy chief and senior engineer. We owe him a bit of gratitude. He retires at the age of 75 from us. And he was, his last day, I think he went to Lisbon Fire, and the next day we had a reported structure fire at the Get and Go. He was first in, so you can't ask for more than that. I appreciate him. As you know, probably in your packet, you saw Durham Fire was awarded a $20,000 grant from Androscoggin County EMA for the purchase of radios. That's just a better relationship now, us and them, working with them, countless hours of going and schooling and education and whatnot. Working with Jerry about funding that, because we have to, as a town, purchase those radios up front before we get reimbursed. We'll get reimbursed right away, but coming in the new year, the fiscal year, we'll try to work together. I don't have that in the budget, so I'm sure Jerry can speak to it at a later date, but we'll purchase, I think that's 4 or 5 portables and a truck radio. Doesn't go far, I mean, it's a lot of money, it doesn't go far, but we appreciate their assistance. I participated in training with Freeport Fire. We went over to LL Bean's new headquarters. That's impressive. We had sat for a 2-hour update, including their water department and maintenance on the fire suppression needs of that building. I think it's on Casco Street, but they went over every building they own, and I'm not up on it, I just know the flagship. And that's impressive, from Bean's house. And they have some unique fire suppression systems over there that would be called gas suppression systems, and some other stuff. They hold records and antiques, and it's impressive. So it was nice to be on a Wednesday night invited over there to do some training with those guys. A quick reminder, December 16th, I think that's a Saturday at 6 p.m., your Durham Fire Honor Guard will post the colors at the Maine Mariners hockey game. Sort of like the Sea Dogs game, they're gonna be out on the ice and post the colors, so that's on the town website for discounted tickets, and the town's invited. The fire department's going, family and whatnot. And lastly, at least 3 of our members have upgraded their EMS license to an advanced level. They're all going through paramedic school, so they're advanced right now. So they continue to work to that licensure, but it helps us, it helps the citizens. So that's a win for us. That's all I got tonight.
Great, I'll just set up, thank you to Ken Scribner.
Yes.
Great job. I know he's been on the department forever, since I ever got here, and, yeah, I know he's been to a lot of things, so
Yes, he
appreciate
has.
his hard work and time. The other, Joe, I don't care which one.
Talking about Mr. Scribner, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but that feels like something that could be memorialized in the town report. If we're not past a deadline, I think it would be nice to do,
I can take care of that.
I'm not
Good
giving you
idea.
direction if the board wants to
No,
vote on that,
no,
it just, I think
that's a
that-
good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what my comment was, because I think Kenny, like, over 40 years almost, is it 30 or 40 years?
Yeah, he actually stopped counting. It was math, it was a lot of math,
Yeah, a
but
lot.
yeah, a dedicated
Yeah.
volunteer for
Yeah.
us. And of course, his wife still, dedicates time to the Eureka Center, so
Great,
quite a family.
All right, thank you,
Anything
chief. No, anybody else? No?
Super.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks.
Be safe out there, thank you.
Try.
Safe and warm. Yeah, stay warm too. All right. We have any old business tonight, Jerry?
No
I
old
see
business
none.
tonight,
No
no.
old business, all right. All right, new business, we got 12 Rabbit Road setback violation, and I will invite up whoever would like to present this, or
Sure.
come on up to the microphone, introduce yourself, tell us where you live, if you're in town.
My name is Michael Malloy. I'm a lawyer in Auburn, and I represent the applicants Eileen and Terry Freed, who are here tonight. Also with me are the brokers on both the buyer and seller side of the transaction, as well as the potential purchasers of this property. We've submitted some application materials to you. We're here tonight asking you to authorize town staff to issue a no-action letter, that the town does not intend to take any enforcement action against a garage that was built within a setback requirement. There's a small corner of the garage that's within 6 feet of the property boundary. It's only a portion of the garage there, and the setback requirement is 20 feet. They were before the Board of Appeals seeking a variance last week. That was unsuccessful. The board marched through all the factors for a variance, first finding that there were no other violations of town code at this property. No enforcement action is currently pending. They found that this setback constitutes a hardship upon the property owners because it prevents them from selling and passing clear title to the property. It's also a hardship on a young couple who want to move to town and purchase this because they cannot get title insurance for their acquisition loan without it. The one stumbling block was the Board of Appeals struggled with whether Eileen and Terry bore some responsibility because they applied for a building permit. And our position was that they were actually told by a past town employee to locate the garage where it is now, which was incorrect. And so that's where some of the affidavits that are in front of you are. And if the town were to take enforcement action, we would be arguing that the town is equitably barred from basically enforcing an action that they told them to take. Everybody here is happy to answer any questions about the facts, but essentially, we're asking you to really just confirm that the town is not taking any enforcement action now and really doesn't anticipate taking any. And if we can have a letter to that effect, then we think that the transaction would be able to proceed. We're not asking you to bend the rules for any other communities, members, or open the floodgates or rezone a part of the area, just to grant a little bit of mercy to a retired couple who made a mistake in reliance on what the town told them, and it was only caught when they went to sell a property.
Okay. Michael, any board member have a question for Michael or any?
Go ahead.
Nope, I don't.
Go ahead, Joe.
So who specifically was told, who specifically are you saying was told, or your clients were saying was told by the former codes officer?
It was a former road commissioner told Terry Freeve, you're gonna have the property, the garage be flush with where the house is from the setback, and said, no, put it over where there's a high ground for some drainage purposes, and told them, basically said, put it there. And so they changed the location of where the garage was actually built based on that. The town never,
No,
No.
wait a
Uh,
minute,
uh,
we're
scu-
confusing the driveway with the garage.
Excuse
The garage is what-
me,
Sorry,
excuse me,
hold on just a
excuse
second.
me. No,
yeah,
if
you
you're,
can't come up.
you're welcome to call
Yeah.
anybody you want up to the
let
microphone,
me
but
have
I
Terry-
don't want people
yeah,
from
we-
the audience
thank you.
butting into this. Thank you.
Terry,
I realize it,
Terry can come up and he
Yeah.
can
Yep.
describe that, because there's an issue
Please do.
of wanting the garage to be lined up with the driveway and
Yep.
My name is Terry Freeve. I'm
It's,
co-owner.
it's okay to say.
Okay.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. What I remember of, I talked to the road commissioner about putting the driveway in. And he said that he wanted the driveway on the high side of, the land. because he didn't want it to interfere with the water runoff. And he, at that time, he said that we had to move the garage 90 feet from the center of the road, which is where we ended up putting the garage. And that pushed the back corner into the setback zone, which my wife and I didn't realize that that's what happened. And the driveway went in, and he had said that if he comes back and we didn't put the driveway where he wanted it, then we would have to move it. So we wasn't gonna argue that point, we just put it where he said he wanted it and left it at that. As far as, you know, the driveway. But that's what pushed the garage 15 feet further.
Okay. Josh?
And my understanding is that would have changed the plan for the building of the garage? Was a new plan created?
A new plan was not created.
Shouldn't
Permit
one
had
have
been
been?
issued. You know, and one of the issues I think that the Board of Appeals struggled with was, you know, did the town come back and re-inspect? Did they have to reapply? You know, essentially, did they have to go and redo that? But they had been issued the permit. It was built and it was just never caught.
Well, they were issued the permit to build the garage in a different location than it was actually built, right?
Well, the permit itself said 90 feet. It said 90 feet from the center of the road. So in between me talking to him and the contractor coming to get the permit, somehow it got changed to 90 feet. And that's what was on the permit. Now, if you look at the permit, you'll see that it said 90 feet.
And then so I'll tell you, Mike, you know, I mean, you've known me for a long time, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, you raised the issue, and it's an issue that I'm concerned about, is this setting precedents? And it seems like you understand that's a concern from the town since you raised it. I mean, why wouldn't this be setting precedent?
Well, because you're looking at the facts of this one particular case, and you have the issue of a representation from a town official that they relied on in making the change.
But without hearing from the town official, right?
Well, the only testimony we have is from Terry and Eileen. It was a former official here, but it's evidence that we offer before you. So, I mean, one of the issues was, how much do we have to litigate what the town did or shouldn't have done, or, you know, the point is, they were told to do something, and they did it. And it turned out it was incorrect, which is why we acknowledge that it is a violation, and we sought the variance. There was no other violations. It is a hardship to them. It is a hardship to the others. The issue is, you know, is it their fault? Well, I mean, again, we're not asking you to cure it. We're just saying you're not gonna prosecute a future violation at this point right now.
So, knowing the town's concerned about setting a precedent by doing this, isn't there another option where you could do a swap of enough land?
One of the issues with that is, I don't think that the abutter is at all interested in that. We'll have to have things resurveyed. The purchaser has had to pay a rate lock extension. There's tremendous cost to all of them. They just don't have the money to do that, to sort of redraw the boundaries of that. I think you're talking several $1,000s, which nobody here seems to have.
Heather, you were up next, Joe.
I have one question that I think that Mr. First would probably be the one to answer, but my other question is, I know a variance was not granted. When a variance is granted, that stays with the property and follows the property through transactions. That's not something that goes away. The variance is granted and it stays with the property. And so I'm wondering if we were to issue a no action on this, what that means for future implications to that property.
Anybody can answer that question?
Follows the property, right? You're given a variance for the setback.
So that would go in their file at that point.
You
I-
would record the no action.
Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't give legal advice, but that would be my assumption of what would happen.
And so, when we get to the point where we discuss discuss what we're going to do as a
Mhm.
board, can we just revisit that? And how I would like for that to specifically state something
Mhm.
when we get to,
When we get to that part.
point?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Joe?
A clarification question. So I watched the meeting from last week, in its entirety, and reviewed our documents that we received today. And so
Thank you for that.
my understanding is that the supposed discussion between the town official took place in September of 2019, based off what was said last night. And looks like the permit was applied for in July of 2019 and then approved in early August of 2019. And the permit shows a sketch of it already being 90 feet back. So the permit which was applied for prior to that application, prior to the supposed conversation, already indicated that it was gonna be following what the supposed conversation then required. Because if the permit's already showing a 90-foot setback from the center line, and that was as of July, I'm just establishing the timeframe that, in theory, being told to move 90 feet back in September wouldn't have been new information.
I think the issue is around the moving of the driveway, as he pointed out.
The drive, yeah.
And that then led to
The-
the garage locations.
Also, the contractor came down, he came down and got the permit. And I was told I had to come down and get a permit too. And I had come down, I'm not sure if it was September, it could have been before then, I'm not sure. But I talked to them, they said, you don't need a permit for the driveway, but you need to talk to the road commissioner. So the first time I talked to him, it could have been earlier, I don't know. And maybe I told the contractor, maybe I did, I'm not sure how that took place.
Right, so
Yeah, you're right.
it seems like from the timeline that was vocalized last week,
Yeah.
that the plan was already drawn in with 90-foot setback from the center line of the road and a 50-foot setback from the back line of the property and
Yeah.
50-foot setback from that line of the property, which is showing that the sketch wasn't drawn to scale, because that would require there to be a lot more distance from the road to the back line. So
Right.
I'm not necessarily sure if that conversation that could have taken place in September really has much validity when we look at the fact that the permit that was applied for in July already stated that it was a 90-foot setback from the road, which isn't possible because of the lot shape, is that's what I'm trying to establish.
Yeah, and I guess where I struggle is the extent to which, I mean, the town did act on that and approved it. The extent to which they bear responsibility for correcting that or for catching the town mistake or clarifying that. The point was the permit was issued, and then we had an interaction with the town, we made a change, it
Well,
was built.
did you make a change, because based off of the sketch that was submitted in July, the change that was vocalized supposedly from a town official wouldn't have caused this sketch to be changed at all, because the sketch in July is showing a 90-foot setback. And so if you're saying in September you're told you need a 90-foot setback, that doesn't really matter if your sketch you submitted in July already shows a 90-foot setback.
Do you wanna speak to that?
I don't know how, what came, I can't remember the date that I talked to him.
I think
first
one of
time-
the
I've
issues
talked
is
to
you're
him a
talking
couple
about
of
moving the
times.
driveway versus the
Yeah.
building
Yeah,
there. So.
Yeah, and I'm focused on
yeah.
discussing the building, not the driveway
Yeah.
right now.
the
so.
building, yeah. Well, we was told it had to be 90 feet. What month it was, I talked to the road commissioner a couple of times, and when the contractor that did the driveway came down, the commissioner came down and he talked to him also and told him that to make sure that the driveway was close to the mailbox, which is the high end of the land, and that it was 90 feet back.
Right, so I'm just saying that from my standpoint, it's hard to establish an accurate timeline for when a discussion from the member of
Yeah.
member of the town may or may not have happened, and whether that impacted the sketch, which we all admit is inaccurate to begin with, so,
Right.
just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else have any questions for Michael or Terry? All right, did we have any other questions for any other member of the appeals chair? So, if not, I'll move from here? I have no questions myself.
I would just say, you know, the town hasn't taken any enforcement action. I'm not
Mhm.
aware that town officials have had anything, even awareness of this, until a mortgage inspection raised it. And then we've come affirmatively in front of the town, trying to be forthcoming about this. Mistakes were made. I think they were innocent ones from our perspective. And so we're just asking for a little bit of exercising your discretion here. So thanks for your time and for your consideration of all of this.
Mike,
Okay.
I
Go
wanted
ahead,
to
Heather.
talk to
One
him.
last one?
My question was just for Mr. First.
Yeah,
Is it
we can have
appropriate?
Paul come up.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
I'm sorry?
Can I speak?
She's
Uh,
no-
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hi,
Hey.
thanks for coming.
Sure, you're welcome.
Is it okay?
Hi, Paul. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, it's Paul.
So I'm reading through the
Say your
transcript
name.
and I did, oh yeah, do you wanna say who you are?
Introduce.
Sorry.
Paul First, Chesley Hill Road. I'm
Thank you.
the acting chair of the appeals board.
Thank you for being here. I did also watch the appeals board hearing. And I just had a question of, the transcript reads, and Mr. Malloy also spoke to the fact that it says, the strict application of the ordinance, I'm looking at B1. Where, and then the land in question could not yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. And it says the consensus of the board was that the property could not yield a reasonable return unless a variance is granted. And so if the board consensus was that they met that criteria, that they would not be able to receive a reasonable return, that's my only question, is why the appeal wasn't or the variance wasn't granted on those grounds.
Because they have to meet all four criteria.
Okay, I thought that
And
was the
so they
case.
met three of the four, and there's actually a criterion before that, but they did meet that one. So it's really a total of five. They met 4 out of the 5. And then the last one that they didn't meet, you probably read,
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
absolutely.
And maybe Mike, you're better to answer this, but does the Board of Appeals decision have anything to do with what's before this board tonight? Isn't that, this is a different step, and has nothing to do with your decision? Right? Is that
If I
accurate?
may, yeah, there's no review of their
Right,
decision.
yeah, no, I wasn't trying to do that, I
But
just
they all
was,
did express support
Yeah.
at the end, as you saw, that hopefully that this board would view things a little differently outside of that analytical framework.
Yeah, the motion by the board was that this board consider the request,
Mhm.
just to clarify.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for Paul? No?
thank
I
you.
have a question for you, Joe. In order for
Thank
us
you, Paul.
to go into discussion on the consideration,
Hmm?
do we need to make a motion to accept or deny first?
We can either have a discussion beforehand or make a motion and then have a discussion afterwards.
Yeah, because I think that it would just be valuable from here on out to move into the discussion on the consideration,
Mhm.
recommendation. from the
I, if we have a short discussion on it and then somebody make a motion based on that discussion, that is fine with me. Did anybody else need to talk? Please come up to the microphone and introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Cheryl Haggerty, listing broker, representing the Freeves. I just wanted to mention that I know that there was some discussion about, worried about setting a precedent.
Mhm.
Well, if they're fined, that might solve that, because I know that they're open to that, okay? Just wanted to mention that to you.
Thank you.
Okay,
As long as
thank,
it's not a lot.
thank you very much.
Yeah. They're going
Okay.
broke.
That was one of my questions, is what the possible remedies are.
So give everybody a second here. Who wants, anybody like to, I can start first if you'd like, or
Did we make a motion? I missed it if we did.
we did not make a motion.
I think
If
there
you'd
was
like-
just a request to have a discussion.
Request to have a
okay.
discussion.
A request to have a discussion, second.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, to everybody in the room and to the town and to the board members, yeah, I am concerned about a precedent. You know, the board has granted these no action letters before in the past, not this particular board sitting here today. but other boards have granted no action letters. It is in our ordinance and in our ability to grant such a document on these occasions that it's needed. Yes, a fine is certainly an appropriate action that we should consider in regards to ensuring the precedent is addressed, across the town, I'll say evenly. It is a fine that could go upwards of, if I read this correctly, upwards of $5,000 as a maximum number. I know that we have a recommendation for a lower number than that, that was put in front of us earlier this week from our council as a recommendation. So I just say we let the conversation go from there and discuss how we want to basically assess a fine and what that value might be, and what the justification for such is. Joe?
Yeah, so to address the concerns of precedents, I think that it would be appropriate to discuss a fine. Based off my review and based off of the recommendation in the vote from the appeals board, it seems like the waters are a little muddy on as to where some responsibility lied with the original permit application, and it's likely that the garage couldn't have fit there, and that there is an improper design done by the contractor who submitted the sketch, and the sketch clearly states it needs to be to scale. And when you look at the sketch, you can see that, this 24 by 24 square building isn't even drawn to scale. The property lines aren't drawn appropriately, and there's improper setbacks drawn in. So I think that there's clearly a violation, and I'm usually in favor of issuing a fine when there is a violation to help avoid the precedence of just, my neighbor doesn't mind, it's okay, I can build it, we're all hunky-dory. So I'm in favor of issuing a no-action letter so we can get some closure on this for the people who are trying to sell the home and the people who are trying to move into the home. Buying a house is stressful, adding in things like this is even more stressful, so I think I'm a fan of going with that that letter, but also assessing a fine. So where we land on the fine, I think would be up for discussion, but I think that's something we should kind of try to do tonight to bring this to an end quickly.
Anybody else? Josh?
I would be in support of that as well. I guess my question is, what is the appropriate fine?
Heather?
I would also be in support of that, and part of what my concerns were that I was asking about in the future is that my preference would be that in addition to the fine, the no action letter clearly states that the use doesn't change, and that if there were a change of use, that at that point, the no action would not follow that.
All right, so I'm going to step in for a second, Joe. So I did think about that a little bit, because what I'm actually, what bothered me while I was stacking 2 cords of wood this weekend was that we have affordable housing coming up. And it's going to change the landscape to a certain extent. I'll use the word loosely. It'll change the landscape of Durham. And some of these properties that we have, which is what that got myself very concerned with, will then be in front of the various boards, appeals more than likely, to grant them ability to put a second residence or an apartment over the garage, and that has bothered me, and to the extent that I was almost a hard no on this, due to the distance to the rear lot line, because it is in clear violation. It is always I'll say the responsibility of the owners, for those setbacks, for maintaining their property lines and knowing where they are. But it has been something that I've been thinking about. I don't know if we are allowed to put that type of language in there.
I have the same concern because with the discussions around the affordable housing and depending on how it goes, this is a lot that could add an accessory dwelling over the garage. So if we issue a no enforcement for the garage, and whether the next owner or subsequent owner decides to turn that into an apartment over the garage, now that's kind of getting a very different feel, especially when we look back to the ordinance and we talk about feel of neighborhood and character of neighborhood and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of have the same concern as you, Joe, is like, is there an opportunity, like Heather said, to say, you know, issue a no action, but the.
Contingent on a change of, no change of use.
No change of use?
And
Because the other concern I
Yes,
have too
but
is then if
I'm
the
not-
garage is added on to the front, so now you have an even larger structure that is expanded upon, that is in non-compliance and stuff
right,
like
I
that.
mean, it's always been the rule of thumb that we do not make something more non-compliant than it actually already is, just by the basis of how the ordinances are written and the rules of the town. So it does become an item that would come up or possibly come up again with that property. Heather?
I'm not a lawyer, but I know we have some in the room, and as a non-lawyer, my understanding of a consent agreement is that it's something that both parties consent to.
Mhm.
And so this stipulation that I'm interested in adding for these reasons would be of consent of all of the parties involved, and so I'll let the lawyers speak to whether or not that's appropriate, but that's where I'm at with this.
So it's funny, I would have suggested, haven't you not, that we give all of the parties an opportunity to talk. Because if there's going to be an objection to it, then that might change our mind, but if we're gonna do it by an agreement, and I don't know if that's something you've talked about, but if you want a few minutes to talk about.
Well, I think there's two different.
Come on up, yeah, that'd be good, that'd be easier, then they can hear you over the microphone.
I think it's just
Thank you.
important to be clear. My sense is that a consent agreement would be as if you were settling a lawsuit. Right now, you're not filing one,
I see,
right?
that's fair.
So,
Wrong language, but still, I think from my perspective, it's still, would your clients agree? Because if you're gonna sit there and say, we're not in agreement, then, you know, that might change some minds here.
certainly, I mean, I think this is really more of a, you're saying the conditions under which the town would not prosecute.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think we can say whether or not that would allow us to get to a closing, but I think essentially, my understanding is that the title insurance company, which is not me, would write the policy and the closing could happen as long as the town does not take any enforcement action against what is there today.
That's fair.
So I don't want to go beyond that and try to speak for them.
Right. in
I'm
order for
not
them-
sure that we need a really lengthy negotiated agreement
Yeah.
on that.
All right.
I think you can set parameters on the conditions under which you would not enforce.
So, I guess in my eyes, it's more protecting your clients, because if we put that condition on there, are the buyers gonna back out? That's, and that's something that somebody might wanna have a conversation with them about before we do this. And that's what I would like to propose. Because if they're going to back out, then that may change our mind as saying, we won't do this, or you know what, we're just gonna deny it.
We're asking for the straight face
And-
Yeah.
test, but then want that
Right,
documented.
I mean, perhaps you might say what conditions you would say, subject to approval by buyer and seller on signing a final letter. I mean, you could set some parameters on what you would say, and then give us a chance to talk to the title insurance company and to give you a response that that's acceptable and the closing can happen. Because I mean, from our perspective, the closing can happen. We're happy to sell it to them. They can't buy
With
it.
a letter of no action, and just stating that there's no action to the structure as is, but if it's changed in any way.
We reserve the
we
right
reserve the
to
right. That's not gonna
revisit.
change the title insurance company's mind.
No,
Right.
I doubt that
So-
it would.
Right, so, I mean, my feeling is I'd like to a conversation to happen with the buyer saying, is this acceptable? And I don't wanna, I see somebody shaking their head over my shoulder, but I don't wanna, I wanna give them the opportunity to talk to their broker
Sure.
and whatever. And to me, if they're okay with it, I think it sounds like there's a consensus here that that would be something that this board would be willing to do. But if they're not, then I think that changes it, and we can, I'd rather not have lawsuits going and stuff if we can avoid it.
So if we can take a couple of minutes, we can talk, and they're here, and they can speak for themselves on that, if you want to do that this evening.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Do you want to go into like a recess or a break and talk, or?
No, I mean, we can just, go ahead, Josh, you gonna say something first? All right, yeah,
Is it appropriate for us to discuss where we're landing on a fine while they're not in the room? Or should
no,
we
let's
wait
just,
for everyone to come
let's
back?
just wait, give them a minute, we'll give them a minute, let's get this
Just
resolved.
to clarify, so we're all on the same page, the discussion here is about, adding in a condition that any sort of no action, would be tied to not changing the use of the building.
We
So
would know-
It's not gonna be turned into a business, it's not gonna be allowed to be turned into a secondary,
So it
accessory
would be a
structure.
letter of no action as long as the garage is used in its current state as a garage
Mhm.
only. I mean, I don't know if there's an apartment above it or what,
It's not, it's a
No.
13 foot.
but then any change to that.
It's up to you.
They'd reserve the right, this town would reserve its right
Mhm.
Yeah.
to enforce any violations should the use change.
Yeah, and it won't necessarily prevent them from having like, say, a business in their house or something like
Right,
that.
right.
You know,
I
that type
understand.
of conditional
Should-
use would
should
still
be
be
that.
approved, yeah.
Right.
It would, but it just would limit what you could do with the
Mhm.
garage
Yep,
itself.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure we say it.
Yep,
so that
appropriately,
we're all
yeah.
on the same page.
Okay,
If I
You
may,
guys-
I have,
go ahead,
I have
Michael.
conferred with the buyers, and they're here, and they're gonna speak for themselves.
come on
Thank
up and
you.
introduce yourself. Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Roach, one of the two buyers on the house. We don't intend to put an apartment or anything in that garage. I'm a mechanic by trade, and I intend to actually use the garage as a garage. So we have no intention of putting anything else in there.
And this doesn't change your position in terms of buying?
No,
Okay.
no. We are doing everything we can to actually purchase this property.
Okay,
So,
Okay, great,
thank you.
thank you very much. Okay,
So I make a motion that we, sorry, did you say something?
Well, do you wanna discuss the fine first, or? do
I
you
was
wanna-
I figured,
Okay.
my motion would be to, accept the recommendation of a no action letter with the condition that the use of the garage cannot change, from its current use, and to assess a fine for the current violation. And I figured we could discuss the fine during the, discussion of the motion. Or do we need to do those as separate motions?
I believe we could do it separately, because it is actually listed as separate items we can talk about the agreement,
So do we need to
and the
discuss
word
fine
"and" is
first?
used, and to collect, what's that?
Do we need to discuss the fine first then?
I mean,
Go ahead, yes, Josh.
I'll withdraw my motion.
I think they should be discussed, it should be discussed as one entire vote, because if
Mhm.
if you're gonna say a $5,000 fine, and they're gonna say, well, that's basically saying you're not gonna give us a letter of no action. You know, I'd like to discuss the fine and do it as one vote. I think that's
Okay.
cleaner and more appropriate.
Yeah,
That's fine.
so I'll
So,
withdraw my motion.
Withdraw, thank you, Joe.
Jerry, do you have a recommendation from the town's legal counsel on where a fine should be assessed?
The recommendation was it's at the board's discretion.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'll make a recommendation that we assess a fine of $2,000. You know, again, we've got the option to go up as far as 5. for any said violation like this. It's not shoreland, which is, I believe, 10 is a maximum. But I'm thinking $2,000 is both reasonable and a deterrent to future folks. I know fines have been different, but, again, I think $2,000 probably a appropriate fee in this case. I don't know if we have any discussion on that?
I'm sorry, I missed that point of clarification. Was that a motion or just a?
No, I just discussion, point of discussion, I'm thinking $2,000 as a logical number. That's both a
Yeah.
deterrent and,
So-
again, we have the option of going higher or lower, but feel as though that's a, Ms. Joe.
My inclination is to not go with the maximum, because as the legal representation pointed out, the folks are here telling us about the problem. This isn't something that was caught. There seems to be some miscommunication, whether it was through timelines, through town staff, or something along those lines. So it doesn't feel like an extremely nefarious case to me, which I think would be what we would reserve the maximum fine for. So I'm just advocating for something closer to what Joe has brought up for a point of discussion.
Okay.
Do we have any examples recently of what these sorts of fines have been? Because I know there's been examples of like buildings having to be removed or foundations having to be removed, but do we know what our precedents for fines are for something like this?
I don't have any direct knowledge of what those settlements were for other fines. I do know that we did expend a fair amount of money on this subject itself from the number of hours that town staff put in. So that number, I believe, Jerry, did you end up?
Alan didn't finish what he was doing, because we found out today certified letters had to go out, and we were in a pinch to get that out, so he didn't finish that.
Okay.
Do you think it's in line with,
Pretty close, I
What?
mean, because of the certified letter and trying to figure, I spent most of my day on it, plus I've had talks with our town attorney. I probably have a day and a half, Alan probably has a couple of days on this.
that, that's always where my concern
Yeah.
and my, my advocacy lies, is that I'm always in a position where I don't want, the residents in a position where we're assuming any of the costs to be able to deal with an outside, situation, right? So my concern would be having the fine set at what it has cost the town to deal with this situation.
Right.
And then you have the addition of the deterrent that you
Right.
need to add on top of that, so.
You also have the appeals, they're volunteers that
Mhm.
are taking time to do this as well. How do you add that up,
Right.
right?
No.
So it's,
No,
and there's, so.
okay. Any further discussion on an amount or a change of the amount? I'd like to, would you like to make another motion, Joe?
Do you have something to say?
Or Josh,
I was
what are you thinking?
gonna make a motion, but.
Go ahead, up to
So
you.
I would make a motion that the town issue a letter of no action, subject to the condition, subject to reserving, the town reserving its right to take action should the nature, the use of the building change from what it is today. And then in addition, the town,
With the condition of the $2,000 fine being assessed first?
Let him finish.
Sorry. I'm asking.
Please.
yeah, and the addition that a fine of $2,000 be levied, and that issuance of the letter of no action be stayed until the fine is paid in full.
Okay, I definitely wasn't writing fast enough.
It's all right, we're recording. Second for discussion?
Okay, yep. Any further discussion on this? Heather?
Maybe I wanna make a friendly amendment that the use, what did it say?
Town accept a motion of no action with
The
current
use
use
as
of the
it states
garage.
today, use, or expansion.
Sure. You okay with that, Josh? Garage or, say that again, or what?
Well, I just wanted to be really clear that that if there's any expansion of it,
Or expansion,
that
yeah,
the
thank you.
town still reserves the right to.
Okay. Okay. So we got the, town accept a motion of, accept a motion of no action with the current use of the garage or future expansion. The garage with an assessed fine of $2,000. Okay, we had a motion, we had a second by Heather. Okay, all in favor in the usual manner?
Discussion.
Any other
Yeah, I just-
discussion?
I wanted
Sorry.
to make a brief point, just so we have, in terms of record. Another reason why I'm comfortable with the lower amount is that rather than the maximum, this is not a dwelling. So I think that makes a big difference. This isn't like a second occupied living space, and that, I just wanna note for future discussions that that's part of my decision-making
Mhm.
for supporting something like this, as opposed to if it was a structure that someone was living in. So just wanted that to be noted for the record.
Thank you,
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Joe.
that.
Okay, all in favor in the usual manner? All right, that's a motion carries 4-0, no opposed. And the only thing that'll need to happen is Jerry will generate a letter. We'll have to sign it.
Well, once we receive the,
And I was just gonna say, as soon as we receive the check, we'll give you a signed letter.
Okay,
Thank you.
I can write a check out to
Aye.
when the Lisbon Credit Union opens, you can call.
No, thank you very much, and yeah, so we'll get this taken care of, and
You want the check tonight?
Yeah.
that's,
I'll,
Feel free.
I'll get mine.
You can write the check, we can't write the letter tonight.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
That's
can
fine,
write
but
the-
you'll have the check.
yeah, so if you guys wanna do that off to the side, that'd be great, and,
Okay.
we appreciate it.
Keys.
Yeah, no, thank
so
you,
much
and,
for
yeah,
everything.
welcome to,
Oh, yeah, sure.
yeah, thank you, everybody, and,
Welcome.
welcome to Durham. Hopefully, everything else goes well. This is the only wrinkle. You always have to have something happen when you buy a house.
Because they did such a thorough job, we couldn't.
Yeah, they did a very good job.
Very well run.
It was, yes. I watched the whole thing.
That was great that you guys watched it, I'm impressed.
I don't even watch movies, and I watched that. So that's the longest film I've watched all year.
Yeah. All right, let's, while everybody's doing their thing, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening. And,
Thank you.
yeah, Merry Christmas. All right, we'll move on to, give everybody
And
1
don't forget to
second to
volunteer.
clear out.
What do you got here?
Join the appeals board.
Yeah, really, we have openings on a number of boards and committees. Feel free to,
Thank you.
Town meeting, first Saturday of every.
it is fun. All right. Jerry, would you like to give us your town
Yeah.
manager's report,
yeah,
sir?
not a lot to report on this week, but the solid waste contract is ready to go. It'll be mailed out this week with bids due December 21st.
Okay,
Question, so
Joe?
that is the existing so our existing contract is coming to an end, and so this is a opportunity to accept bids from whomever is interested.
Yes.
Okay, and so that ends June 30th, and we're hoping to, how long is our bid period open for right now?
It'll be close to 3 weeks, so bids are due 3 PM on December 21st, Thursday.
Okay.
So it should go out in the next couple of days.
And so when, just for my understanding, when you say that the bid, that it's open, how do we advertise that for Durham? Do we send it out to
We send
people?
it to, and then I put it on the MMA
Okay.
website.
Cool.
On the town website.
Yeah,
And town website, yep, that too.
Yeah.
I do know a local person who's interested in bidding, so that's good information that it's gonna go on the town website also.
A local person.
Okay.
Who is it? So I just need a address, I can send it to him.
The rubbish doctor, he's expressed interest in,
Okay.
All right, I've never heard of this person, so
We can,
I'll
you can get
have
that to him afterwards.
get that
Great,
to me,
thank you.
We'll send him
I had 2 questions, I think, for Jerry, if that's okay. Was your question done, Joe?
Yes.
Different subject or the same subject?
No, a different subject.
Different, do you have anything more on your
a.
report?
No, that's
first?
all I.
That's all you
I
had,
to
okay,
report.
all right.
Such a short
Great,
request.
no,
we can-
no, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead, Heather. Fire away.
And this may have already happened, but if it didn't happen already, I thought we can discuss it, or if this is just something that everyone's in agreement with. I thought it would be great, the resolution that we signed, if that could go, on the Conservation Commission section of the website
Okay.
for people to see. And maybe that could get included in like the news blast or something that goes out. If that's appropriate and people
Yeah,
feel like
that's fine.
I just think when we do stuff like that it's important to like let the residents know that we've done that kind of thing.
Put on the website and what else?
Maybe in the news blast.
Okay.
And then last week, I think it was last week, we talked about meeting spaces, and you're gonna come to us with ideas, proposals.
My idea is to go to the fire station. Unless you folks have another idea, I don't have anything else for you.
I was just wondering if I wanted to make sure that you weren't waiting for me to get
No.
contact information for the school.
No, I'm not.
You're not. You don't wanna entertain that
I don't wanna
conversation?
bring the town's issues to the school.
Okay,
I think that's our issue, not the schools, so but that's up to you folks. I mean, you can say, Jerry, go to the school, we'll go to the school.
No, I'm inclined to defer to your judgment on this stuff, Jerry.
You know, I think the board, the town has to have its own meeting space and not rely on the school.
I was my suggestion for the school is in the interim versus going to the fire station.
Yeah.
But if, again,
But the
if
fire
you feel like
station,
that's,
the planning, the public hearing on the, worked great.
yeah,
So I don't, both the chief and I, we don't
Okay.
know why it's such a,
Yeah, I mean, I think for now you've got a plan,
Yeah.
let's go with that plan, and then we can discuss this at a future meeting
Right.
for, a bigger plan on what we do.
okay.
don't
I just
think-
wanted to make
It
sure
doesn't need to
that,
be resolved, right?
no, I
here
just wanted
right
to make
now.
sure that you weren't waiting for me for contact to
No.
contact them if you hadn't, but thank you.
Okay.
So my 2 questions for Jerry.
All right. Okay, consent agenda. I'd like to move to the consent agenda, accept the town meeting minutes from November 14th,
so,
approve and sign the payroll warrant.
so there's 3 different minutes here because we
Yeah.
didn't approve, so you've got meeting minutes for 11/14.
Yep,
10/24 and 10/10.
yep. I've read them all, I'm fine with them. I make a motion to accept the consent agenda and the meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
Joe seconds, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, consent agenda passes and is approved. Okay, board
Oh,
members.
this is warrants, sorry.
Yeah,
Same,
board,
that's the same thing.
board member reports.
So,
So this is, go ahead, Jerry, I'll let
So-
you introduce it, because
yeah,
it's your
let me
idea.
introduce, well, right, so it's common that in these select board meetings, council meetings, at the end of the meeting, that the board members get to report out on anything that they're hearing from their constituents. I know Josh, you had brought something up about the patrol on, so it just kind of gives you a chance to just report out, just like the staff does. The select board members can report out as well what they've been hearing. So rather than items for the next agenda, maybe that's an opportunity to say, geez, this is what I'm hearing, should we talk about this at another agenda? Or, more times than not, in the last municipalities I work at, they did that. And the council members would say, nothing to report at this time. But if they had something, they would say it was short, it was quick, it wasn't discussed, it was just something that they would bring up, and maybe we would talk about it at another point, or something like that. So it's just an opportunity for the elected officials to do a report, just like staff does, once in a while, or just like I do every meeting.
Yep.
And you may not have something, or you may, so.
Yep.
That's, so you, typically how it happens is the chair goes around the room and says, you know, selectmen,
All right.
anything to report, and if they have something, they have something, if they don't, they don't. But it gives an opportunity for them to speak
Yep.
on something outside of what was on the business.
I like the idea, we can see how this goes. Heather?
I've been approached about 2 different subjects. One I addressed with the chief, or with Calvin, and then chief addressed it. The safety concerns around access to that lot near that intersection. We have multiple car accidents, and there's been multiple fatalities at that intersection. And while I think that everybody's hearts are in the right place, I do have some safety concerns around that, and I have been approached about that also. The other thing that I've recently been approached about was the way a staff member was treated at the public hearing for the land use ordinance changes. And so that's definitely something that, as a board, I would like to discuss if we want to wait for Rich to get back.
Yeah, I think we'll save that one, because that, I know that did come up in another forum, so, yeah, let's wait for the next meeting to discuss
Okay.
that in executive session,
Okay.
okay? But but that's the kind of stuff that I think we wanna bring up here, is either something to spark your interest, that sparks the interest of the board. We're trying not to talk about it here at that moment, but just to get the subject out there, give everybody an opportunity to speak, and keep it short. Joe, you
I
have
was
something?
gonna say, I really like this idea of adding in the board member reports. Just, I think sometimes there's value in just being able to, in a public setting, say, hey, just so you all know, here's something I heard or saw. You know, here's the 10 compliments I heard people give the select board last week, you know? Those sorts of things. So I think that that's a good idea. And then at this same point in time, bring up ideas that we wanna talk. I just do think it will be important for us to acknowledge that this is the point to like make a statement and not necessarily get in the weeds of a discussion. And I feel like sometimes as a board, we all are guilty of kind of getting excited about a topic that we bring up and diving right in. So I think that we'll just wanna make sure that we like bookend that. I'm guilty of it as much as the rest of us are. So I just think that that's an important
Agree.
consideration here. So maybe in our policy discussion somewhere, there might be a line about the board member reports and what they entail. I also just part of the reason I want to make sure that we have that kind of built in there too is so it doesn't feel like people are like, oh, that's where the board will discuss things they don't want to put on the agenda and let us know are gonna come up, so that is really just delineated so people know that this is sort of something. I think we're all in agreement, but I just again want to make it public that that's kind of my thoughts on it, so.
Great, thank you, Joe. Josh?
So, thank you. I appreciate you putting this up there, because I know it was a comment by me that led to this.
He wasn't gonna call you out.
And so, I think what I raised with you, and I believe Joe, was the county has decided to dedicate a patrol to Route 4. I believe it's just in Livermore, Turner, Livermore Falls area. I don't believe it extends into Auburn, but one of the issues that we've had historically is response times in Durham. And the growing population, the growing traffic on our roads. I know based on the conversation I had with law enforcement recently, that they've stopped people going 90+ miles an hour on 136. And it's not a one-off thing, it happens quite often. And so, I don't know, I was trying to, but I haven't had the ability yet to see what exactly it was that they voted on for that patrol, whether it's during rush hour, all day, morning and afternoon and not overnight. But what I'm hoping is that we as a board can, use that as sort of leverage to get the sheriff to try to have a more, and they've done better. I will admit, I've seen them, well, it's been a while, but I had seen them a little bit more recently than I had in the past. But to commit more time to patrolling the town of Durham. I know that, that's going to have a faster response time for those communities. And I understand, and the other communities that the sheriff's department covers, and I know that Durham is unique because we're the only ones on this side of Lewiston, Auburn, Poland, who all have, Poland has its own dedicated deputy paid for by the citizens. This is the only dedicated position in the sheriff's department that's going to be dedicated to a certain stretch of 3 towns and ignore the rest of the county, which, well, I have my own opinions about that. But I'm hoping that we can, as a board, at a future meeting, address using this to have the sheriff commit more patrols to the town of Durham. I know that the sheriff's department and their command know about what's going on traffic-wise, crime-wise in the town of Durham. We've had that discussion. It was within the past month. And so I know they're cognizant of the issue. Whether they're gonna do something is another story, and so I'm hoping we can use this as a way to get that going. Because I don't think it's feasible for us to pay for our own deputy. But I think since we're paying, and we're now paying for this deputy that's going to patrol just Route 4, when we have 136, 125, Route 9, all of which, maybe don't have the same number of serious accidents, but the same drivers driving crazily. I think we deserve something out of this since we're paying for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good subject to bring up at a future meeting, Josh.
When
Heather?
that item goes on the agenda at a future meeting, I would just like to see how it read that they did that. So I don't know if it would,
The county commissioners approved, and I'm not sure if, I'm assuming by now the budget commission is also, but they've approved a dedicated patrol position for Route 4.
and was that under pressure from those towns collectively?
I bel-
That's what I'd like to see, is how that came to fruition.
I do wanna do a point of order. This feels a little more into the weeds discussion.
Yeah, so
So,
that's what I was
yeah.
at, is that when that gets on the agenda, that's
Yeah, I-
documentation that I
I
would
think
like to
that-
see
yeah,
with it.
I think that is good to discuss when that comes up, just to, I have plenty of things I wanna say about this, but I'm trying to
Yeah,
confine
no,
it
let's,
to
yeah,
just-
let's, I mean, it's a good subject.
No, I agree
Let's put
with
it
you,
in the
but-
future. I agree,
yeah.
we'll need a bunch of information to go and discuss this further. That needs to be collected, so we'll have to figure out how to get that. Okay,
And so I just wanted to add one thing in terms of traffic discussion. An observation that I had, so I'm a member of public, bringing it to select board member Joe to share here, is some concerns about, having at some point discussion about concerns about people running the automated lights on 125 where the bridge is being replaced, especially with the winter time coming, because the vehicle in front of me had a pretty close head-on call coming down the hill with someone who ran that light, and just exploring options to have that operated by a person or something like that during high traffic times, because once the winter time comes, that person was able to hit the brakes and not have a head-on collision, the other person was able to back down right in front of me, but it was a close call, so I
Maine
just.
DOT actually made a post about this.
Yeah, so again, I just wasn't sure if it was something we could have Calvin explore or talk about at a later date, but I just wanna say that I've seen a lot of complaints about that and heard a lot of complaints about that, and just wanted to share that.
okay. All right,
It's my trash can to
all right, we're gonna move on, let's see, upcoming meetings and town news. CIP committee meeting is on 11:30, so that's this week and a couple days here on Thursday night, 6 PM at the town office. Select board meeting on 12/12 and 12/26, 6:30 at the town office, and planning board meeting 12/6 at 6:30 PM in the town office.
I have a couple questions about the upcoming meetings. I know planning board meeting and select board were obviously live streaming. Is CIP also live streamed? Or is that recorded later?
It's recorded.
That's recorded and
And-
posted
okay.
later.
And I just had I don't know if this is an appropriate time, but just for our 12/26 meeting, I know we had a discussion about possibly talking about
We will probably just move that to January, and
Yeah, I
that
just-
way we don't interfere with the 12/26. No,
Yeah.
I realize 12/26 might be hard for some, so.
Yeah.
that-
Isn't there an ordinance, solar ordinance meeting that's coming up? Isn't that tomorrow?
I don't know.
Said anything to me if it is.
12/7.
Oh, 12/7.
That's
Yeah,
the public
okay.
one.
Okay.
And then they are meeting tomorrow night though, for their regular meeting.
The committee.
But the
Yes.
public hearing
Okay.
is on the 7th?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank
up
you.
to weekend.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for meetings coming up. Any reason to have an executive session, Jerry?
No.
No? All right.
But I just wanna be, so the 26th, is that definitely out?
No, it's a scheduled meeting right now, and later on, we'll decide whether we're just coming in to sign some paperwork for you, or having a discussion about something else. But right now, that's a set meeting on the schedule, we'll leave it there for now.
Okay.
I believe I heard that we would have a quorum for that to be able to sign paperwork, so.
I do
Okay.
have one question, sorry to add extra little question, but, so, I sit as a normal member on the Conservation Commission. When I
Yep.
joined this board, I stepped down as chair,
Mhm.
and I made sure to do my best to kind of distance myself from some of the things that might end up becoming recommendations to the select board. But in the past, at public meetings, I have kind of been like the face and the mouth for the Conservation Commission. And I can imagine that tomorrow at that meeting, they might ask me to kind of lead some of that stuff. And I wanted to judge this select board's feelings on me speaking as a public member and as a Conservation Commission member there. And I don't want it to in any way, shape, or form seem like I'm a select board member. So I just wanted to judge you all's opinion on my participation there.
Yeah, I think you just need to make sure that you don't represent the select board in
Mhm.
your,
Yeah, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room and say, I'm here as a Conservation Commission
Yeah,
member, but I
no.
just wanted to make sure that this
It-
body was comfortable
It's
with that.
okay with being a select board member and being on these committees.
Mhm.
You know, even as chair, I mean, of course, being the chair is a little different because you might have to come before the select board, which
Right, which is
doesn't
why I
work very
stepped down.
well, right?
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. So there's nothing wrong with being a
Mhm.
committee member and being a participant as a citizen and a committee member in those committees. And again, it helps because you know, I'll say, you have a viewpoint as a select board member, as well as a citizen, and as well as a committee, a knowledgeable committee member. So when you're talking about something, you can, at least in your own mind, think about how the select board is going to react to something, even though you may go the opposite way in that meeting. You know, and I say the opposite way, you may go, down a road that brings you to a logical conclusion that might not be the same as the rest of the select board
Yeah,
later,
and I
which is
100
okay.
I 100% understand that, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to get ahead of it because I have seen at some other public meetings where a member from the public has like questioned a select board member attending
And that's
asking a
gonna
question.
happen.
And that's fine, so I just wanted to get ahead of it and bring up here that
Yeah.
there is a chance that I might be asked to do some of the heavy lifting during the explanation process in that 12/7 meeting.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that the board was comfortable with knowing that I would extremely upfront delineate that I'm not representing the select board as part of that. And I just wanted to make that clear so there doesn't seem to be any sort of malfeasance, so. just more of a courtesy
Okay.
here, and just making sure that's okay with everyone, so.
It's definitely okay with me. I think that you're so articulate about so many of those issues. I think it's an asset to the voters and to the residents to have someone who is knowledgeable, articulate, you know, that is your line of work,
Mhm.
and that you're a very clear communicator.
Thank you.
And I
Try
think
to.
that that's an asset when people are in situations where they need information to be able to vote. And so, as long as, which I know you will, say that, you know, you're there as an individual and not representing the board's point of view, I'm happy to have you there.
Okay, anything further? Otherwise, no executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Joe motions to adjourn. Heather seconds. All in favor? We are adjourned. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
This was not what I was expecting to be the shortest meeting of the last 4 meetings.
We off
So-
air.
No check, did anyone see a check?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It went to Kimberly. She just cashed it.